Hey, y'all, it's time for Go Fight Win, the show with all the high school football stories you love. On this week's episode, a mysterious connection between a seemingly unrelated high school football movie and high school football TV series, plus some great stories from all around the country, including a deer on the field, a tarp-covered field, anchored down by all kinds of miscellaneous objects that protected the turf from a blizzard, and a high school football team that tried to wake up its coach because they made the playoffs. Hey, Halloween is over, but y'all still sent in some of the scariest encounters you've ever had at high school football games, so we're going to dig into those as well. It's time for Go Fight Win. Huddle up!
Tell you what, just give the ball to Donnie Cook and let that turkey roll.
Hey, y'all, welcome into Go Fight Win. It is November. It is playoff time in this sport that we all love. You're standing down there on the field. You start to feel that cold November winter air seeping in between your toes. Doesn't matter how many pairs of socks you got on. Doesn't matter how many hand warmers you got down there in your boots. You feel old Father Christmas lurking around doing army crawls, doing bear crawls on the field, and just blowing on your toes, freezing you out, giving you a little frigid feeling that the end of your season is a loss away. The leaves are rustling. They're not on the trees for too much longer. They're getting edged out too. And by the time all those leaves are gone, well, somebody in your region, in your classification, in your state will have a crown of glory upon their heads. Will it be your team? Did you make the playoffs? Are you going to persist? Are you going to survive and advance? Or are you going to be stuck at home watching every round on public television? This is the time of year that you live for. I love it. I love watching it. I love living vicariously through your teams. So if you are supporting Go Fight Win, supporting your own team, give the show a like, give it a follow, and tell your booster club about it, tell your coach about it, tell your team about it. We're here just celebrating all the wonderful, weird things that happen in a high school football season. This is my love letter to the game, to the sport. I hope it never changes, even though I know it is. It's a pure game. And a lot of other iterations of football are rubbing people the wrong way. I still love the NFL. I still love college football, but it's hard to beat the sanctity and the absurdity of high school football. So that's what we're doing here. You can also find yourself a nice Coffeetown football hat, nice Coffeetown football t-shirt, shirt or hoodie, or sweatshirt, crew necks, coffee mugs, all the stuff you need to keep you warm, bundled up. Go get you one over at gocoffeetown.com in the team store. Let's start with some stories from around the United States of America. The first one I saw, which really impressed me, was this Illinois high school football team, Antioch High School, the Sequoias. The Sequoias. I don't know. It's one of the two. But this tweet here is from the Illinois High School Association. What a wake-up call for Antioch High School football coach, #football coach, Brian Glashhagel and his family ahead of the Sequoias first-round IHSA playoff game. Look at this. POV. This is what the TikTok video says from Sarah Glashhagel. Point of view, it's 6:30 a.m. You're married to the head coach of a high school football team who just made the playoffs and went undefeated. You wake up to the football team, cheerleaders, and the marching band standing outside your house singing the school fight song. This was a gamble from everyone involved. How do you know coach is there? How do you know coach didn't wake up early? Start lifting at the field house around 4 a.m., watching film up there of the team's opponent. Well, it turns out coach was there and did get waking up. And this story here from the Daily Herald Just as his alarm was about to sound Wednesday morning, Brian Glashagel was awakened by a strange noise outside his bedroom window. John Dietz writing the story here. Half awake, Antioch's football coach rolled out of bed, looked outside, and stared into the yard in disbelief. The team, the cheerleaders, the band singing the fight song, "Go Sequoias, go! Fight Sequoias, fight! Win, win, win!" Hey, go fight, win. It's right there in the fight song. Love it. This was the idea of someone related to the team here, Sue Day, whose son Nick is the starting fullback and broke the school record for rushing yards and touchdowns on the same play on Friday. Day has been president of the Gridiron Group, which supports all levels of the football program since her oldest son, Evan, was a senior in 2018. That's great. I mean, look, the fullback is just going to go and get things done out there. We've established that here on this show. There's no doubt that the fullback's mama has that same spirit. She might as well have a cowboy collar on herself, just taking on life one day at a time. Apparently, it's a playoff week tradition for Day and other moms to use the cover of darkness to decorate Coach's house in a bunch of ways. But this was a little bit different. It was signs and balloons one year. Then another year, it was a blow-up helmet and balloons. But then it was toilet paper and striping the lawn to make it look like a football field. And this is just a continuation of Sue Day one-upping herself and all the team moms. Who knows what they'll do next year? Did Antioch go on to win the game? Yes. The tactic worked. They beat Inglewood STEM 63-8. Antioch was the 3 seed in the state playoffs in Illinois, outscored opponents 472-134 during a 9-0 season. So do whatever it takes. Wake coach up every single week. If I'm coach, I'm getting out of there a little earlier, and I'm getting my head right because every round of the state playoffs gets a little bit more difficult. And I'll tell you what, if I don't like it, if y'all aren't performing up to your standard, if you're not loud enough, y'all are all doing bear crawls. Even you in the band, brass section, drum line. Drop that gear and get down and give me some push-ups. Dang it. We need you all on the same page. We need you all to have that same energy if you're going to come here and wake me up. That, to me, is what high school football is all about, though. You got the whole team. Imagine trying to sell the band, trying to sell the cheerleaders, the football team on getting up early just to go mess with coach. Did they need TikTok to motivate them? Did they need to say, hey, it's going to be on TikTok, let's go do it? Or do you think that their hearts were beating for the game and for the team? That's what I'm choosing to believe. All right, somewhere a little bit colder here. Where is this? North Dakota. Justin Prestigard tagged at Go Coffee Town on X in this post. The original post is from Zach Keenan TV, and Zach works at KMOT Television, which is in North Central North Dakota. They're practically up there in the North Pole. This is practically, they're covering Santa Claus. They're covering Christmas. They are the first boots on the ground determining whether or not Santa Claus has left. They beat NORAD. They get the information about Old St. Nick before NORAD, but they also cover high school football. So here's what Zach Keenan posted a few days ago. Fans from West Hope, Newburgh, and Glenburn laid out a tarp Tuesday held down by hay bales and tires. Today, they shoveled thousands of pounds of snow and unrolled a tarp to reveal a totally dry grass field. Sioux hosts Grant City on Saturday. Hashtag North Dakota Preps. So the video here is amazing. And this was sent out on October 28th. I live in Georgia. I've never in my life seen snow on October 28th, and I don't think that I ever will, at least not here in the Peach State. But in North Dakota, there's snow on the ground, I think, 362 days a year. They get a 3-day spring where it all melts for a little bit, and then they get a little bit more. That's what all my meteorologist friends told me anyway. They might have been pulling my leg. But they got this thing covered in a tarp, and not only is the tarp out there, it is every object you can imagine. They got tires. They got hay bales. They got a bobcat pitchfork unraveling the tarp. They have everything out there to keep the snow off the field and preserve it for the game. All right, so they had their game, and this was actually, I'm looking up on Max Preps here to actually get the full story. It's not Grant City, it's Grant County. And they were playing, not Sioux, they were playing a school called West Hope Newburgh Glenburn. And Glenn Burns is actually the meteorologist in Atlanta, where I grew up. So that's this thing's come full circle. Glenn Burn was dealing with some weather. But West Hope, Newburgh, Glenburn's all one school. I'm learning myself. I have a lot to educate myself on here. There's not a lot of snow in October where I'm from. Certainly not covering a high school football field because you're worried about thousands of pounds of snow. I have not even existed to see thousands of pounds of snow hit the state of Georgia in my lifetime. But they got it all. And what happened when West Hope, Newburgh, Glen Burns played Grant County Co-op, which is also a bunch of different names, Carson, Elgin, New, Leipzig, Flasher. Is that one? That's one of Santa's reindeers. Well, West Hope, Newburgh, Glen Burns won 52-22. But they did have the game, and that was part of the 2023 North Dakota High School Football Playoff bracket. So Glen Burns is moving on. I always respected his work. It was a little, it was always a little embellished, I thought that there was going to be thousands of pounds of snow and we would just get a couple flurries, but we'd still get school off. I mean, that was never up for debate. You were watching to see if the roads were going to freeze, and we just needed one little snowflake and we'd be good. We'd be out for the day and we'd make a snowball and then go back inside. West Hope, Newburgh, Glen Burns is now going to play North Prairie Co-op in the 9-man team, the 9-man football teams. They lost a couple guys out there in the snow, I guess, and they're just going to keep rolling on. The 9-man football bracket, Glen Burn, Newburgh, West Hope are in the semifinals. But it's just interesting to me that, the same sport can be so different just based on the weather this time of year. We're not getting any snow down here in Georgia. We might have a little bit of frost on the field, a little bit of mud, a little bit of fog. That'll roll in from time to time. But no snow. No snow tarps on our high school football fields. That is not in the budget. All right, how about a couple states over? Washington State. Someone sent this video to me. A deer out there on the field. And we talked about a bear on the practice field. I think the first episode we did, and some deer on the drive home. You got to watch out for those. But this is a big buck here from Chris Egan out of King 5 Television. And that's in Seattle, Washington. Chris tweeted, "Too many players on the field last night during the Stiley football." What is Stiley? Steilacoom Sentinels. And they were playing Fife High School. Too many players on the field last night during the Steilacoom Fife game. And this is a buck. This thing's got horns on it. Video's a little too grainy. I can't see how many points it has, but it's big and it just hops that fence. And here's the deal. There's a lot of things going on. The ref is chasing the deer, and there are fans at the fence, and they don't, they hardly move. This must be a common occurrence. They're seeing bucks out there on the field. But this guy was agile here. It was a big deer. Quick on the hoof. You got to watch out for these deer during the game, though. And then they go. This buck just hops over, leaves the game, leaves the field, and then there's a barbed wire fence behind the stadium. The deer just kind of disappears. I hope it's all right. But I love to see some wildlife at a high school football game. There's nothing like it. Speaking of wildlife at a high school football game, some of the scariest things y'all encountered and I've encountered at high school football games as we transition from Halloween time to a much scarier time of year, elimination time in the high school football playoffs. That can be pretty frightening too. All right, so Halloween, I asked y'all to share the scariest things that ever happened to you at a high school football game. And let me start off with my response. This is kind of what fueled it. I was covering a high school football game in Perry, Georgia, almost 10 years ago now. But there was a demonstration that had a bird of prey on the field before the game, a live hawk. It's a big hawk. And you can see the picture if you're watching on YouTube. This hawk landed right beside me. And, you know, a lot of times for these games, I'd go pick up a snack. I'd go get a little something because you never really knew if you were going to be able to find anything at the concession stand that you could eat, or if it was up, if it was running or what. So, you know, I'd pick up something, leave a little bit early, and usually get like some beef jerky and get a little sustenance. Well, I hadn't eaten my beef jerky yet. And I'm down there on the field, and this dude's got like the big leather glove on. He's got the straps. He's got the raw chicken, whatever he uses to get this bird of prey to not fly away. And this thing has some big talons, man. And I get this picture about field level, turf level. I'm down here right by the blades of grass. And all of a sudden, this bird, I don't know if birds can smell, but he knew I was carrying. And I've been run over by a referee at a football game. People from the band have bumped into me with big instruments. People have thrown things at me from the stands. Giant, I think there was a teddy bear one time hit me in the head. But I've never been so scared at a high school football game as I was when this hawk eyes me down, my beef jerky right there in my front pocket. I got a couple kids now. They didn't know it at the time, but they were in danger in that moment. I lived to tell the tale, thankfully. So that was my scary story. Here's some other ones. Luke Hagedorn. On consecutive nights in district play, the press box had an electric fire at Lebanon. It was like the scene from Hoosiers afterwards, with everyone following the buses back to the JOD to finish the game on a Saturday night. You never know when a fire is going to break out in the press box. Shelley Creed responded, "Remember it well, longest high school game in Missouri history, at least at that time." It's probably still true today, yes. More electrical issues from Nick Sweat. Johnson County taking on Hancock Central in Sparta, Georgia. The field lights timer was set for 10:30. The game took forever, and Joko scores with about a minute left to go up 54-36. Before the extra point, the lights go out, players and fans scatter, and the game is called with time on the clock. There already are not many lights down there in Sparta. You ever seen in the heat of the night? There's not a lot of lights down there. And when they go out, you don't want to be outside. It's not always safe for a lot of people. So yeah, that would terrify me too. I'd be booking it. I'd be in my car. I'd be going back to Macon or driving south of Tampa or wherever they would have me, because I wouldn't be caught out there in the dark of Sparta, Georgia. Kyle Benjamin says having a ball kicked at me on kickoff return as a sophomore in a rivalry game. That's part of the job, man. We were undefeated as freshmen. We only played 6 games. But our very last game, I was on the hands team for the onside kick. We were, just nursing this game, and coach gets in my ear hole and says, "If this ball comes to you, Blankenship, and you run, I will kill you." So I didn't touch it. Didn't even try. I believed him. Those kickoff returns, especially in a rivalry game or when something's at stake. If you're not meant to be the return man, that can make your knees shake a little bit. Here's from Mike Fowler. The year is 1997. Great year. I'm a freshman and a proud marching Trojan. We are taking the stands after pregame, and a senior football player shoulder checks me as we walk by. I was certain he was going to kill me. Turns out he didn't even realize I was there. Laser focus. He didn't know you were there. No offense, Mike. He didn't even know where the sound came from in the band. Y'all might as well had invisibility cloaks on from Hogwarts. What else we got? I'll do a couple more here. John J.P. Mundy says, took a direct snap to the solar plexus while walking through WF football warm-ups. What is that? West Forsyth. I think the solar plexus is like your sternum. Is that what that is? Somewhere in your leg, maybe? What's a solar plexus? Sounds... Okay. The solar plexus is a complex system of radiating nerves and ganglia. That sounds bad. You definitely don't want to get a football there. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot going on in the solar plexus. It really has nothing to do with space, which surprises me. You got to watch out for those snaps. They'll come at you and take you down. Last one from Dog Sports. Had angry fans from Dodge County throw bricks at us, but it was okay. Like the football team, throwing wasn't really their strength. Dang. I guess you're the closest you are to, what do they say? The closer you are to danger, the further you are from harm. Especially when Dodge County's out there throwing bricks at you. All right, how about a story that seems too good to be true? All right, how about a story, a character, two different characters, one actor, and a high school football crossroads that you got to know about. You might not be aware of it, but I'm about to educate you. Jesse Plemons is an actor that was on Friday Night Lights TV series. He played Landry. Coach Kyle Chandler, Coach Eric Taylor called him Lance. Just a classic mix-up. Always funny when you call someone the wrong name, either on purpose or on accident, but you just kind of mix up the rest of the word after the first letter. Landry becomes Lance, and all of a sudden, a nickname is born, right? Well, I was watching Varsity Blues recently, and guess who shows up in Varsity Blues but Landry? Landry's got a troubled past. Even in Friday Night Lights. That second season, affected by the writer's strike, he had a love interest with a girl who's way out of his league, Tyra. And he kills a man. Landry kills a man in the writer's strike season, and they never talk about it again. They just kind of own up to the fact that that probably wasn't the best part of his story arc, and he just gets away with it. He gets nervous for a little bit there. His dad's a cop, and they kind of hint at a cover-up and that kind of thing. But for something so significant to happen in one of the strangest seasons ever of television, not just in Friday Night Lights history, you kind of just forget about it. You forget that he killed the guy trying to protect Tyra. But he does. He gets away with it and then kind of pursues this emo path in the show. But before he was in Friday Night Lights, before Landry killed a guy, guess who he was? He was Lance Harbor's little brother in Varsity Blues, who makes fun of Jonathan Moxon, Harbor's backup. Harbor played by Paul Walker, rest in peace. Moxon played by James Van Der Beek. And I've attempted to get this man on the show, Moxon, but they got this thing called a SAG strike going on, and that means the actors don't talk. They're not even allowed to go trick-or-treating, apparently. So I can't get him on. Maybe one day. Maybe as the show continues to grow, we can talk about it and talk to Jesse Plemons. But Jesse Plemons, now in Children of the Flower Moon, I think that's what it's called. Killing of the Flower Moon? What's the movie called? Flower Moon. Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. Killers of the Flower Moon. And Jesse Plemons is in this movie, and he's got a pretty big role. It looks like he's a policeman. What's his name? Tom White. So he investigates these killings down at the reservation. But anyway, before he did all that, and before he was in the spotlight for Killers of the Flower Moon, Plemons, as Harbor's brother, what was his actual name here? Tommy Harbor, was sitting there roasting Jonathan Moxon because of his football skills. Little did they know Moxon was going to be one of the coolest, calmest, most collected quarterbacks they'd ever seen. But the fact that he grows up, becomes Landry, becomes Lance, when his brother's name was Lance on Varsity Blues, and he kills a guy, it's just one of the more remarkable fictional high school football storylines you're ever going to hear about. More interesting than Donnie Chuggs, more interesting than Reptile Henderson. Is it the same guy? Is he a lookalike in the same universe? Or is it just a coincidence? Who knows? He grew up seeing a lot of things there in Varsity Blues. That town was, rotten to its core for football. That he brings some of that with him to Dillon when he grew up and became Landry. It's possible. I'm not ruling it out. Landry Clarke is who he played and didn't have a huge role on the football team. He was just kind of around, did enough to catch Tyra's eye for a part of a season, and then the rest is history. He became a murderer, and we'll never forget about that either. Haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon yet. I don't know if there's any kind of football tie over there, connection there. I'll have to investigate further, and if there's an update, I will provide it. I appreciate y'all listening to Go Fight Win. Get some more guests rolling here as we keep going through the playoffs. It's fall break, though. A little bit different episode here. Fall break, no guest, just me flapping my gums about all these stories that y'all have shared with me, and I appreciate it. And when we don't have a guest, we'll just talk about guys like Landry Clarke, who killed a guy. But before he killed a guy, he was also just killing Jonathan Moxon because of his football skills. Love high school football movies, high school football shows. I mean, I could do an entire episode on Boobie Miles, the real-life guy and the movie characterization of him. And who's to say I won't? Y'all watch out for that. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you for checking out the show and celebrating everything that there is to celebrate about high school football right here with me on Go Fight Win. New episodes dropping each and every Thursday. Y'all have a great week. Best of luck to all the playoff teams out there as they get started. And send me your best stories at Go Coffeetown on X and Instagram so we can celebrate them together. Peace.